right now, and then I'm going to start. So I'll press start in three, two, one.
All right. So I think we've got everything going. Mike Z, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Fantastic. Keith, thanks. Fantastic. All righty. Looks like people are joining. Welcome, everybody. My name is David Giesiga. I'm with the Elevate Technology User Group. Welcome to our June Community Hour. We've got a great conversation for you today. We're going to give it a couple of minutes as we let all the attendees in. Everybody's coming in. I'll redo this, but Keith and Mike are here, we're going to talk about all sorts of hanging gardens of Canada.
Hanging everywhere.
It's fantastic. Let's see here. We'll give it one more minute, and then we'll go. It is funny how the auto with the backdrop and the auto center, it looks like Mike's on ice sliding around.
Little
well,
hockey
we'll go ahead and kick it into gear here.
Yeah.
Welcome to the June, or I guess to another Elevate Technology Community Hour. I'm joined today by a very special guest, Keith Bradley, Vice President of IT and Security at Nature Fresh Farms, and my special co-host, Mike Vlanek, Director of Global Infrastructure. These gentlemen are both also very involved in user groups. Keith is on the Advisory Council for the Dell Technologies User Community, or DTUC, and Mike, as many of you may know, is also a member of the Elevate Technology Board of Directors. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. How are you?
Great.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Before we get started, I do want to encourage everybody, we would like this to be as interactive as possible. Please use the chat or the QA, pardon me, the QA function to ask us questions or to weigh in. We wouldn't be able to do this without the support of our sponsors, Dell Technology and Intel. So thank you very much for sponsoring us today. All right, we are here to talk all sorts of things. Greenhouse and AI.
Yeah,
Keith,
they don't merge sometimes, do they?
Well, it sounds like, the conversations we've had, you guys have done some fantastic stuff, and it was really neat to see you at Dell Technologies World. For those of you listening in who attended Dell Technologies World, Keith had a really cool example of the greenhouse and what they're doing. For us to get started, I think it would help to just set some context, Keith. So could you tell us a little bit about Nature Fresh Farm, and then, the company, how it's been growing, what your involvement's been, and then give us a sense of what your IT environment looks like, including the team that you manage, please.
Yeah.
Was that pun intended, David? How the company's been growing?
I know. I've heard that a couple times. So Nature Fresh Farms, we were founded in the year 2000. We grow bell peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, and as of last year, we just started to grow strawberries. So we basically grown everything. And when you think of Nature Fresh, you have to think of, I almost like to compare us to a hospital in a way. We actually have this plant. We control every aspect of that plant's life, from how much water it drinks, how much sun it gets, to everything it does for the whole life cycle. So the moment it's born to the moment we take it out and we start fresh again, we control everything of that. So, we want to optimize its growth. We want to make sure it's getting everything it needs. And when we started doing this, we really started looking at how do you scale this? And it's weird to think of a greenhouse of trying to have the same uptime as a hospital. It really is something different. When I've talked about it before, that we need to be up 24/7 to make sure those plants grow, because if they don't get the right nutrients at the right time, bad things happen. So we have a very large environment here at Nature Fresh. Well, I like to say large for a small, medium business that we are. We're VxRail based for all of our compute, PowerScale for all of our unstructured data. And at the same token, we're a big Dell switches. We like them. We like the simplicity of support. And we go from there. And then we're right down to the Latitude 9450s and stuff like that when you get to the workstations. As for my team, we're a fairly small team, so that's why we like to keep things simple. We're on the traditional IT side. I oversee 5 people there on that side. We have 3 people in the DevOps / AI, and then 2 people in the ERP.
And to do this, how many acres of growing are you doing? What are your locations? And give us a sense of like how spread out or how consolidated your environment is.
Yeah. So we're fairly spread out. We are spread out. We cover 250 acres of land. That's divided into what we call ranges. Anywhere from a range can be anywhere from 32 acres to 15 acres, depending on where it's at. In Delta, Ohio, we have 90 acres, probably over 150 acres of land spread out. And then in Canada, we have 160 acres, probably spread out over 250 acres. So when I'm talking what we grow in 200 acres of greenhouse, that's 258 acres covered by glass and totally inside of a greenhouse. So when you see a picture of our greenhouses and you see things, you should never see a wet plant because we don't want the water to come in. We want to control every aspect of it.
Very cool. Very cool. I imagine your water needs must be huge in addition to power and everything, but that's not quite what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. Well, actually, water and AI are a big combination that we do. We do a lot of stuff with that because we do take up a lot of water, but we recycle a lot of our water too. But that is
all right. Well, you said the magic word AI,
Yep.
so let's dive into what you guys are doing from an AI perspective, because I think I got a little taste of that at DTW, but would certainly love to hear more about that.
Yep. So what we do is when we first started the journey of, I can say, transforming our technology, and you know, we talked about earlier, AI has kind of become that new buzzword. Transformation was a word. Now AI is a word. When we started to transform our organization, we started to build it on a structure to be able to grow and expand. And that's no pun intended again there, Mike, but we wanted to grow and not grow through the woes of downtime and stuff like that. So when we first started, I wanted to turn a grower's life, a grower that's in charge of growing the bell peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, from instead of being reactive to the environment, because we do control the environment, but the outside does dictate how we do things. If it's cold in Canadian weather, they got to heat it. If it's hot like today, you got to make sure you open the vents and try to cool it off. So everything we did was very reactive. So what we started to do is started to build an AI engine and an AI model that started to predict. So the grower wants the greenhouse to be at this temperature at this time. Okay, how do I make it get to that? Do we burn wood chips? Do we use natural gas? Is it warm outside already, and do I need to just open the vents and let the heat in? So that way a person isn't looking at that saying, how do I do this anymore? So that was one of the first things that we started to do. And by doing that, it allowed the growers to be freed up and walk into the greenhouse and see what's going on, instead of sitting there on the computer going, oh, I got to make sure I'm heating this up at the right time. And what's cheaper, natural gas, electricity? What do I do?
So a lot of folks are, you know, they hear the AI buzzword, they hear all the hype that's around and buzz that's around it, but they don't understand kind of how the rubber meets the road. So talk about a little bit about your environment and how you've implemented that, and sort of those elements of AI that you've implemented, and specifically what the underpinnings of that are.
Yep. So a lot of the things that we do, it always starts, and you're going to hear it every time, that data is king. That was one of the biggest, I think, advantages that we started with, is our growers have always wanted the data. They've always made sure it's accurate. They want to know. So if you go back in our system for 10 years, that data is very clean, very correct, and what we want to see. So now when you start feeding it into an AI algorithm, you start using PyTorch to kind of start to build a model and start to get it going, you can start to have something to help analyze it, how to put it together to make something work. You know, and my team really sat down and did it. And when we had all the information, it makes it easier. Then you start kind of connecting to the VxRails. We started using OpenVINO to making the inferences, and then making those, I call them small language models, to become large language models. It made it really different. But a lot of the stuff that we started with was very simple things. We want to get we want to irrigate 5 times a day, but we only want to irrigate when it's sunny. So pulling in the outside weather and letting the AI decide when can you irrigate. And that's where we started. There's a lot of those simple analogies on what to do, and it kept growing and expanding on how to do that.
So Keith, you said you got 10 years of data and it was clean data to start with. What were you storing that data on?
It was all in the PowerScale. Usually a lot of it was in a database format, so it was already pretty well ready to go. A lot of imagery. We did have images for a very long time from other projects, so we had a large amount of data that we just had to basically start teaching the models what's good, what's bad. You know, like what do you want? What do you want to see? The trickiest part when the models get complicated for us is how do you predict what you want to see happen in 3 weeks from now? Because what changes you make today to the greenhouse, you won't see that result for 3 to 4 weeks, because that's when that pepper, tomato, or cucumber actually gets picked. So it makes it really, really complicated to kind of predict that as a human being. But that's where that AI, that underlying knowledge of everything, comes into factor.
We've got some great activity in the question and answer, and I think John Fisher asked a really good question. That it sounds like you're using a LAM or a large action model, and he said, "Are you using REST GPT or Diffie as a way to integrate your LLM into your actions?"
We've actually used both over time. The Giphy is the one that we kind of really went to. That's what we've kind of did. But we're one of those companies, I like to say, we'll try anything once, and we will literally do out there and we'll try it once. I know
fail fast.
Yep. Move on fast, as fast as you can. I know it was just interesting. The teams all over it. Intel just released a whole bunch of new AI languages for their newest chipsets to work off to help the OpenVINO. We're all over that now. I know they were working on that constantly the other day, so it was something that they're working on.
Yeah, and then Brent had asked, how much automation do you allow the AI to control or interact with? So, like, it sounds like kind of guardrails. What are you doing there?
So what we do is that was part of our transformation. What we did is, so before, the grower would get an alarm saying something's not right in the greenhouse, like it got too warm, and then he would have to log in and make the changes. Now what we slowly changed now is it was a 3-year model that kind of took since 2021, where the grower would get an email now that would say, here are the suggestions I would do. Now it starts to get to the point now where it says, this is the change I've made, this is why I made them. And the grower has the option to go back in to change it, but that way he doesn't have to be the one to do it. It can react instantaneously. You know, today's a perfect example. We got high heat and we're